Innovative di Hatiku represents a slogan that focuses on prioritizing community and future students, especially from the B40 groups. The spirit that arises from this slogan is to continue the effort to always give and help the community and prospective students in need. This slogan should remain a principle in every innovative citizen, so that this slogan is spoken in every community throughout the state in Malaysia and make innovative as the main option to pursue higher education.
Inovatif di hatiku. Inovatif di hatiku.
Inovatif di hatiku.
Innovative di hatiku.
Innovative di hatiku.
Assalamualaikum dan selamat pagi. Alhamdulillah.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Dia ada macam double voice
Double voice?
Ada ke? Cik Ana dengar double ke? Alright, mungkin technical kita tolong sikit kot ya. Alright, so Assalamualaikum sekali lagi Cik Anas.
Okey, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi kepada semua pendengar kita. Ya, kali ini kita akan bersiaran lagi kita pada hari ini dengan topik-topik yang sangat menarik, sangat current dan sangat semasa. Dan insyaAllah nanti Puan Shahawati akan bagi tahu apa topik yang kita nak bincangkan pada hari ini.
Oh, alright. Terima kasih Cik Anas ya. Assalamualaikum, selamat pagi semua. Ya, saya Puan Shahawati, Presiden Innovative International College, bersama dengan saya hari ini ditemani oleh Vice President Encik Muhammad Anas Muhammad Bukhori ya. Sebagaimana semua maklum, inovatif ada dua part ya. Satu memang kita working from home, so itu boleh nampak lah dari segi saya di working from home. Dan satu campus lagi memang working from office. Saya boleh tengok Cik Anas memang working from office ya. Itulah inovatif yang selalu berinovatif ya. So hari ini topik yang kita nak bawakan Against Way Forward 2021 untuk Innovative International College dan juga MCO 3.0 dan education ni ya. Apa dia punya kesan ya, what is the happenings ya, apa yang berlaku ya secara direct dan indirect ya, dia punya kesan-kesan kepada higher education dalam perspektif Malaysia dan dalam perspektif Innovative International College ya. So jadi kita nak buat perkongsian ni ya supaya manalah tahu ya, boleh memanfaatkan rakan-rakan kita kat luar sana ya, Cik Muhammad Anas, dan juga boleh memanfaatkan our friends ya, our global friends ya. So mungkin today we have to speak more in English because I think moving forward we need to bring more guests from overseas university and colleges to talk about how the impact of pandemic COVID-19 to the higher education as a global platform for the higher education provider and industry. Alright, so today topic we want to talk about how the impact. So before we actually start that, we would like to make one announcement, which is just recently we got to know this about 1 day ago, which is about yesterday, Cik Anas, where we've been given information from the ministry that the announcement of the SPM will be announced. The result of SPM will be announced to all the student SPM leavers on the 10th of June 2021. So that also will be one of the topic that we would like to discuss. What actually the preparations, why is the announcements is made, and then what is the preparation after that. It's not so much about the announcement, people get excited, people got to know the result. But what actually the preparations as a Malaysians, as the higher education providers, as well as the parents. So that is what we want to discuss also today. So, Encik Anas, betul-betul tak you rasa about this announcement on the 10th of June?
No, I find quite excited, to know what will be the way of the ministry to evaluate all those students, kan. 450,000 Malaysian students who have taken SPM. Their result will be announced in the coming weeks, and then on the 10th June actually. So it's going to be very interesting to know. In fact, the minister himself yesterday also announced that he will give some information about how the student going to be evaluated. And I believe there are a few institutions, especially Innovative International College, has already prepared a range of program for all various students from various grades, from the SPM. So it's very exciting. We can't wait actually. So itulah puan.
Alright, mungkin kita boleh punya technical boleh share sikit the announcement. So kita boleh lihat. Itu dia ya. So this announcement considered official. So will be on the 10th of June. Anak-anak kita akan mendapat keputusan SPM mereka. So anyway, all the best to all the SPMs candidates 2020 ya. InsyaAllah kita doakan yang terbaik untuk semua ya Encik Anas. Alright, thank you technical kita. Thank you Encik Amir yang bersama dengan saya pada pagi ni. So insyaAllah sebelum kita kupas topik kita, there's something to do related to the SPM announcement. The preparations towards this, kita nak tengok daripada perspektif parents ya, anak-anak dan juga the country itself, the government itself ya. So how prepared are them? And then from there we want to see whether the higher education is also prepared towards this ya. So let's we see some videos. Maybe kita tak akan mainkan sepenuhnya, but we would like people to see this video because it's telling us about what happens in the global situations in terms of this pandemic COVID-19.
It's the largest disruption of global education systems in history. When the pandemic first hit, around 1.5 billion students around the world were sent home as schools closed their doors. Some have since reopened, but class isn't in session for half of the world's school children. The lucky ones were able to pursue their studies online. But for many, even in developed countries, that's not an option. The world was already struggling to come to grips with educational inequality. Now, the United Nations warns the COVID crisis is making it worse, disproportionately affecting the most vulnerable and threatening to wipe out decades of progress for this generation and possibly beyond. At the height of the pandemic, schools in some 190 countries closed their doors. Many have since reopened, but the experience of lockdown heightened major inequalities in education. And even richer countries like Germany have struggled with the challenges of going digital.
Pencils are sharpened, books are out. German students are back in the classrooms. But it seems not much of the digital learning put in place during lockdown has survived here at the Fritz-Kasen School in Berlin. Teacher Ryan Plocher says many of the challenges involved in digital learning remain.
The foundational problems are still there. A lot of parents don't understand technology. A lot of families don't have internet or digital technology at home. But the schools are much better prepared. So we are able to have clouds and messenger services and email that is all in accordance with data protection laws, which was not the case before.
The corona crisis has made schools realize how much still needs to be done. In most classrooms, teachers and students still use analog tools and learning materials. To change that, the German government has put aside €5 billion to digitalize the classroom. Money desperately needed, says co-principal Uwe Schönefeld when looking at his equipment. It is definitely the case that teachers and parents are investing their own private resources to digitalize the school. Of course, there have been initiatives by the state, but that always comes with a lot of bureaucracy, which we see now as well with the current fund. So in the end, you have to make sure you take all that you can get. Until now, only one of over 1,200 students at this school has received a tablet financed by the state. Students are aware of how slowly things are moving and want to see change. There's room for improvement in the digitalization of our school, to say the least. There's not enough equipment for all students. It's not enough to make proper homeschooling possible. But some students think that they are now better prepared in case of another lockdown. At the beginning, it was new for all of us, the system, the computers, working at home. Now I think that it would work better than the first time. But the ideal classroom that can switch effortlessly from the school to each student's room, it remains a distant goal.
Let's talk now to Professor Fernando Reimers. He's the director of the Global Education Innovation Initiative at Harvard University. Professor Reimers, thanks for joining us. You've said the current disruption to learning could cause the biggest educational setback in history. Could you expand on that for us?
Absolutely. I'm delighted to be with you. The current setback has to be set in the context of the fact that over the last 7 decades, the world experienced the most remarkable silent revolution in the history of humanity as a result of the expansion of access to school, which went from including about 1 of 2 children in school 70 years ago to including just about everyone. Now, this pandemic, through 3 mechanisms, is going to create a major setback. The first mechanism is that because schools have had to create alternative ways of delivering education in a limited time with limited professional preparation to teachers, those mechanisms have not reached all students equally well. In addition, the kind of support that is available to students at home varies depending on the level of education of their parents and their socioeconomic level. And as a result, for the students who have not been reached effectively and who do not have adequate support at home, they're not learning and they're not engaging in school. What that means is that some of them are going to have a very hard time continuing their studies when the pandemic is over, and some of them are going to drop out altogether. In some cases, the hardship caused by the pandemic in some families has caused those children to begin to work to help their families survive. And finally, the third mechanism is that this pandemic is creating enormous financial burdens in some states. And as a result of that, there's going to be less funding available for education. So those 3 mechanisms are the ones that are going to cause major setbacks in how many children are able to return to school. We're going to see many of them drop out, and we're going to see that for many children, even those who continue, there are going to be significant gaps in their knowledge that schools may or may not be able to help them recover.
So some huge challenges there. Now, you've spoken to educators all over the world. What's the most surprising thing you've heard from them?
That is correct. Over the last 6 months, I have been doing extensive research with colleagues at the OECD and at the World Bank. What has really surprised me the most are 3 things. Number 1, the tremendous concern for education. The fact that education is seen at a time of a pandemic when life is what is at stake as a very, very serious concern. And that speaks to a major cultural shift in humanity. If you think about the last pandemic of 1918, education was not one of the top 3, was not even one of the top 10 concerns. And the fact that it speaks very well about how we, as a global community, have internalized how important the development of the talent and skills of the next generation are. The second thing that has surprised me is the professionalism of many teachers who have demonstrated that to them, education is not just a job, it's a life mission. And they have worked extremely hard to create alternative ways to continue to reach their students, sometimes with the support of their local governments, state governments, sometimes in the absence of that support. The third thing that has surprised me is the remarkable creativity and innovation that has resulted from collaboration collaboration among teachers, within schools, among schools, collaborations among organizations of civil society and teachers. And I think that some of those innovations have been facilitated by the teachers who are connected to networks of people outside their jurisdictions. That communication, extensive communication that puts a teacher in touch with others in places far and away has created the equivalent of a Medici effect. A Medici effect is a term used to refer to what happened in Florence several decades after the Italian pandemic, when Lorenzo de' Medici convened in that city a variety of artists and intellectuals and scientists like Leonardo da Vinci, like Michelangelo, like Raphael, like Machiavelli. And out of that convergence of great minds in a small place came the Renaissance. And I think there is a potential for some schools, this communication, this collaboration is going to really bring about some renaissance in some schools. But sadly,
nice to end on a hopeful note there. Professor Fernando Reimers, thank you so much for speaking with us.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Time now to answer one of your questions about the coronavirus. Over to our science correspondent, Derek Williams.
How do you decide which parts of the population get vaccinated first?
There's a lot of worry at both the national and international levels that when a vaccine does become available, it won't be distributed to the people who need it most on an equitable basis. But who does need it the most? Well, lawmakers are already coming up with lists of who should be at the front of the line. And with some variations, it's what health authorities around the world will hopefully carry through. Assuming that politicians are able to grasp the idea that this is a global issue that won't be solved by vaccine nationalism, which is a big if. But supplies will also be limited, initially at least. So.
Alright. Itu dia video yang agak panjang tetapi agak is elaborative video plays discussions about pandemic COVID-19 ya Cik Muhammad Anas in regards to education. Yeah. So it's alarming, but at the same time it's make us understand what actually happens to the education and then the impact of education because of this pandemic and the impact to the entire community and the society. Yeah. So from that video, what we understand, Encik Anas, is a little bit serious things that we need to look at. Yeah. Now we see that the government of Malaysia are really focusing on vaccination, getting everybody to vaccinated. And then, of course, even that also, the frustration we can feel from everybody, because of I'm not really sure what happened, but it's very, very slow. Yeah? And then we've been promised this one is settled before even March and February, but now we are already May, and then we've been informed this might be settled only in September next year. Looking at the situations of Malaysia, so it's kind of it's a shame thing, because we consider ourselves is quite in front in terms of development countries. So, but in addressing these matters, we are very slow. So,
and want to add on to that, we come to our knowledge that now even Thailand have manufactured their own vaccine compared to us.
Yeah. So that is quite not a very good not a very good situation for Malaysia as a whole. Yeah. So what we want to touch here as from our research and reading, Encik Anas, to share with the viewers that there's a two things that actually we want when we talk about pandemic COVID-19, how we want to win this. Yeah, there's a two things. There's a two type of vaccination. One is a real vaccine that you inject. That is got vaccinated. Another vaccine that you have to make sure that the people, the generations is not deprived of the development and the progress is education. Yeah. So today we want to look into vaccination. Vaccine is about education. Yeah, looking at the video just now, Encik Anas, is a bit scary because what happened to the globals that people showing that some it's not some, it's a huge populations of peoples in the whole world will be affected due to lacking of education, due to pandemic COVID-19, due to lockdown of the schools and colleges and university. So because of that, most of the schools actually moving towards online education. But again, the question here, Encik Anas, how effective is the online education? How equals in terms of online education toward the entire generation? We look into Malaysia perspective. Now we are talking about 450,000 students of Malaysia going to graduate from SPM. So what about them? Are they going to have equal access to higher education? Are they not going to have it? Even before pandemic, also we have difficulties to give equal access of higher education toward all the graduate of SPMs since 1998. So now with the pandemic COVID-19, the equality will be there for our next generation, knowing that without them Malaysia will be nothing, without them we can't survive this, without them the effect of pandemic will last in our society. So boleh Encik Ana share sikit how we want to do this, yeah?
Okay. Actually, it's very simple. When I look at any issues, we should look at from the numbers. Yeah. You know, every year, Malaysia spend about 50 billion ringgit for primary and secondary education. 50 billion. So 50 billion. Let's say I bought one tablet for my kids. It cost me about 400 ringgit somewhere in 2019, which worked well until now. And then it's only cost 400 ringgit, and let's say the remaining 600 ringgit is just like a data cost for one whole year. So it's something like 1,000 ringgit per device plus internet services. So if governments were to buy these services, the device and the internet services, they can buy for 50 million with 50 billion ringgit, 50 million devices. But the number of students in primary and secondary is only 5 million. You know, you see the figures there? There's definitely something wrong with how we allocate the budget. If we want to give everybody one single device, doesn't matter whether they are rich or poor kids, everybody gets one single device, just costs 5 billion ringgit. Alright, that is one. Okay, number two, the government may say that, we do not have the infra, even if we have the device, but there is no connection, right? There are services. For example, like Starlink. Elon Musk through Starlink has launched, if not 100,000 of satellite into the space to provide internet access directly from the satellite. Yeah, but we didn't use the service. Why? We should be able to contact them and get the, if we can buy Astro services, in the rural area, with the peering Astro, the parabola, and then everybody can watch TV, right? So why we cannot buy Starlink services? I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's only cost less than 1,000 a month. So the whole village can share the internet connection. That's number two.
Yeah.
Number three, with 50 billion budget, that's more than enough money. If you minus 5 billion for the devices, another 45 billion to install all the receiver, all the pencawang, what we call it, antenna for 5G or 4G services throughout Malaysia. More than enough. It's more than enough money to buy a factory in China to produce the phone.
True. So actually what we are looking here is more like the government have to play a very important roles in make sure the infrastructure actually come. And then the thing have to be fast and then soon. Now we are graduating the SPM students. 450,000 students are going to flood the market in terms of looking for the right higher education. But we know very well about 50% of these students were not able to continue their study, not because of there's no private higher education for them, because they don't have the access to the facility for the online learning or digital learning, Cik Anas.
Yes,
So
that's
I
correct.
think what the government should look at, the first step, they should actually address this matter as soon as possible. Besides, they are now struggling to give vaccine to the entire population of Malaysia. They also need to focus on how to address this matter. I think recently I read one articles about people asking when actually government want to give the tablets and the internet access to the people in the rural area, to the peoples of we call and categorize them as a B40. For the global who listen to us today, we are not racist. we categorize our socio-economic background by B40, T20, and M40 for us to understand how to address this matter. So that is a very good approach. But how we address is a second thing. So I think, Encik Anas, we need to actually try to educate everybody about we have to make sure the infra actually come to the student. Yeah, so the student have the equality in higher education. We don't talk about global, just into the Malaysian perspective. If 50% of the student is not been educated enough, yeah, by the time this pandemic over, which I believe the effect of pandemic will be about 6 to 7 years, we will see that Malaysia is too behind. Yeah, what do your view on this, Encik Anas? How we actually focusing our infras, like you said, we have about 5 million budget. We should be able to allocate to this student. For example, you are telling us your kids after a few years using the tablet still actually function, meaning that if the government address the issue for the people who come into maybe form 4, form 5, they can still use this facility even when they go into their tertiary education, Cik Anas. How you find this?
Okay, first of all, when we look at things, with the 50 billion budget a year, then we wonder how this budget is spent. Why it's not being spent to the right area, like purchasing budget for all the students. Then on the government side, they may say that, okay, we need to pay for this, we need to pay for that, and it's all accounted for the 50 billion. The way I look at here is indecision. If at the beginning of the pandemic, the ministry said that 2 years we are not going to open school except for examination, maybe, right? Then you don't need to spend on maintenance so much. You don't need to maintain on, a lot of things like utility, electricity, because you already closed for 2 years except for maybe 1 or 2 examinations. So the saving from there should be more than enough for you to buy all the gadget, because now you are unsure. Today open, tomorrow close. Today open, tomorrow close. So it's harmful for the student to come to the schools, and if you see the statistic, there's a lot of a high percentage of Malaysian who having coronavirus is from the school age. So if the government can decide, okay, 2 years, we don't need to open, and all the saving, I'm guaranteed that all the saving can be used to pay for the devices. But unfortunately, that's not the case.
Yeah, so I hope whoever listen to this, this is not a politic platform. This is definitely is not. We are not talking about controversial issues. We want to talk about innovative perspective. Just to everybody knows that we are higher education provider. We are college, so we provide tertiary education. But our main market, those students that come to innovative is mainly from B40. Yeah, so this is what we try to help the student. They come to us with so much of constraint and difficulties. So what I try to understand here, of course, in terms of education provider like innovative, we prepare. In fact, all our lecturers are prepared with the online digitals, videos, everything. We are prepared. But now our question is, did the student prepare? That is the sad part. If the higher education provider, I believe all my colleagues out there, you know, even the big university or big colleges or even the small colleges, we are prepared to deliver programs online, digital. All right. But now the question is, did the student prepare? Yeah. So I think here the government need to play an important role to make sure the infra for all these students, maybe 2,000, 200,000, M40, T20, their parents from a very good education background, a very good socio-economic background. These students, they are well taken care. But the 250 students, which is not coming from the right socio-economic background, to support them to pursue their higher education. As we all listen to the video just now, the professor from Harvard saying this, yeah, because of this, the student will be deprived of education because the student will be asked maybe to get a job because they need to support the economy of the family. So now the government and Cik Anas, I believe they need to play an important role, and then they cannot delay this any further. They cannot even say, oh, we want to take step by step, look into things. They cannot play politics in our future education. So I believe this is the thing that we want the peoples out there to hear us. It's not the politic talk. This is not politic talk. This is not provocation talk. This is about reality, about Malaysian. Because for me as an educator, I believe should be our fight. This should be the thing that we want, yeah, to save our generation from deprived of the good and high quality education. Yeah, Encik Anas. So
Yep, that's correct, Puan. That's correct.
yeah.
I mean, a lot of people have already talking about it, and it seems like there's no action. So maybe we should look at it from new perspective, whereby maybe we ourselves need to take some action. We are the private higher education. We have more flexibility in terms of no bureaucracy, you know, in deciding what to do, what to spend, and so on. I mean, if there are various people or various sector in our society fail to deliver their part, so it become the burden to another part of society to deliver our part. So that okay, I see point. I see this from this point of view. So because a lot of people have been talking about it, but so far there's no resolution. But we as the private higher education, maybe we can structure, you know, structure our program as such that when B40 students come to us, we provide them with all the resources required for them to study online. Maybe even if at their location currently doesn't have internet connection, we can bring them to somewhere nearby our location so that they can reside there with all the internet connection and so on. At the same time, still maintaining at the very affordable prices, so that their high education is not affected their family. That's number one point. But number two, we know that the quality of the student, the knowledge might be impaired due to their inability to attend physical classes. Maybe a certain knowledge not been properly transferred to the student. So we also have to be prepared that certain student that come knocking our door in the next few weeks may not be have all the required knowledge, minimum required knowledge for them to further into diploma. Then we also need to adjust our syllabus. We may need to have something like a preparatory courses, or in fact, we may need to put some advanced technology like gamification for them to simulate, you know, certain things. For example, Puan, there are many games out there, you know, a simulation game on teaching you how to be a good businessman, how you develop your business online and playing with other players. You know, this is gonna be very, very interesting way of teaching, because if students just going to sit in front of device and listening to lectures hours and hours, it's gonna be very boring. And I don't think this generation appreciate that as well. So that's why I believe from our perspective, we have you know, less bureaucracy. We can design the way we want to deliver our program, and we should basically expect all this from the student that come in.
Yes. Yes, I think what we try to tell here, looking at the video just now, we cannot just wait for the government to come and interfere and assist. We aware about the bureaucracy, we're aware about the situations in the government. So I believe the society at large in Malaysia have to come together. Parents, society, the community leaders have to come together in our effort to make sure that the students is not being deprived of quality education. Yeah. So I believe like what Encik Anas tried to say, maybe many people's like Innovative International College want to help. Yeah, like through Innovative di Hatiku, we want to help. We give internet access to any center. We on a monthly basis we will pay for it, so the student can actually use this access to one places, so they are having their surrounding which is safe, so they can actually have the internet, so they can actually continue study. And then in Innovative, our approach also, Encik Anas, we reduce all the fees, yeah. So to make sure that the students in the rural area, maybe at the end of the situations, can afford to pay to buy their own gadget and equipments, yeah, because the fees that we're going to charge are very, very low, yeah. So that is what we try to help in terms of how the Innovative as a private higher education provider to assist in 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 order for Malaysia to overcome the impact of pandemic COVID-19 to the education, yeah, to provide the quality educations to our generation. Okay, but again, Encik Anas, by saying that, still we will not able to address it to the large society,
That's correct.
because still the government interference is required here. Yeah, then we really hope maybe one or two people listen to us, maybe can forward it for them to really understand that in order for us to fight this pandemic COVID-19, don't just look at one thing, which is vaccination. Don't just look at one things which is vaccine. We have to look into another part of important thing, which is already talked in the global academic forums, you know, from Harvard, from Oxford, which is education. So I think we cannot be quiet about education. So I think we really need to look into educations, no more about trainings, you know, not about short training, a real education, so the student, the next generations can survive this. Yeah, so that is the most important for Malaysia. Especially, we don't want to make our progress, yeah, just stop because of pandemic COVID-19. Yeah, so let Malaysian progress. So Alhamdulillah, now we've been given a tools like internet, you know, like all these free tools, like we got all this equipment inside the system where it's free for the people to use, yeah, you know, like Zoom facility, like Google Meet facility, like live facility, like now we are doing channel. All this is given free. We just need to provide internet to the society. Yeah. So that is should be the aims of Malaysia, eh, Cik Anas?
Yeah, that hopefully somebody in the government listen to this talk show, and then at least lah Puan Wati, at least even if they cannot spend even one single cent of additional money to assist the student who doesn't have the internet connection, at least at the very least change the policy so that all the private higher educational institution tell this institution, okay, for the next 3 years or for the next 6 years, or you no need to maintain a physical classroom. So
Yes.
by telling so, we can let go all the classroom that we have, on monthly basis. We are spending about 100,000 paying for the rental and utility. Imagine 1.2 million every year. If we don't need to spend, we can channel 1.2 million to buy all the devices required by our student for free.
Yes.
Just by tweaking the policy, not even come up with money. But I don't know why nobody is talking about it in the news.
I think sometimes they are too busy, Cik Anas, worrying about something else. I think this one we need to highlight to them so they can come with us. So I would like to welcome all the ministry. For example, the ministry are assisting and helping B40 parents and students to come together with us in fighting this and giving a right education to the student. We can work with them. I know they have the facility and access to give the student the infra, so we can help the student with giving them programs and education, online educations. And then at the same time, we can provide a quality education, which is innovative, is known for a very industry-oriented program. So we can help the student, the B40 student with the 3 credits and below students. So any peoples from out there, NGOs, governments that would like to come together with innovative, we are welcome them. Don't talk about bureaucracy. Don't talk about somebody want to make profit out of it. This is not the time. Yeah, this is the time to help Malaysians come back because of the pandemic COVID-19. This is the time that everybody comes together and help our generation. We're going to announce SPM on the 10th of June. Remember that 450,000 students are going to be out there looking for what is there for them, who are actually looking at their problem, who actually care for them, who actually want to see they are successful. Believe Malaysia, for you to be successful the coming 5 years, you are required this generation to be successful. So if we forget about this generation, we have to forget about the entire Malaysian development at all. Yeah. So that's why, again, it's not what saya dengan Encik Anas telling. This is from the top of all the professors from the league university in the whole world. There's a 2 vaccine that we need to look at. One, actually the real vaccine. The second one is the education. These are only 2 vaccines that can overcome this pandemic COVID-19. Look into this seriously, Malaysia can survive. Look into this seriously, providing the right infrastructure. We are not backward country. We are not the country we've been deprived from all the development for the past many years. We actually consider almost developed country during, I think, about 5-10 years ago. Yeah. So I believe it's not so difficult for us to make the comeback and start put our thought and our direction into the right direction and objective. So in preparing Malaysian to overcome this pandemic COVID-19. Yeah. So Encik Anas, looking into this, I believe we would like to call many more people to play an important role from the community, parents, yeah, community leader, Encik Anas, even NGOs, anybody. Because this is a real thing. This is not something like we just talk today, just passing time. No, this is a real thing. When the SPM been announced, we know very well. Yeah, some of the students make a very right move. They already registered. They're already in the system. They're already studying because the government allow using trial result. But some of them still waiting. So telling the parent out there, what you are waiting for? So nothing's going to change about pandemic COVID-19. Believe me, it will be with us until next year. We talk about vaccination. We know it is not 100% going to save us. Yeah, so I think we need to be prepared to talk about something that going to bring Malaysia for the next 5 years and 10 years. That is thing that we need to talk about. I believe the education is the most important thing that we need to discuss. Yeah. So
Okay, Puan.
right.
I want to make some announcement. Maybe for those NGO out there, anybody who wants to contribute something, contribute your knowledge. Come. Contact us. Maybe we can build some free higher educational program together, giving free to the public. Maybe you already retired, but you have knowledge. You want to share for free. Come to us. We will record all your video. We will put it up there and sell it. Not sell it. Give it for free back to the society. At least,
yes,
you dapat pahala, kan?
Yes, and then for the global listener, global education NGOs, we are here to help since there's no boundaries anymore. Education, Malaysian standard of education is recognized by 222 countries in the whole world. Come with us. Yeah, so we can help as much as we can, provided we need some help in terms of infrastructure from some of the community societies and also the government's bodies. Yeah, so insyaAllah. So saya Puan Shahawati Binti Umar, President Innovative International College, together with me
Muhammad Anas Bukhori, Vice President of Innovative International College.
On today's topic, MCO 3.0 and education in the perspective of Malaysia and also Innovative International College. Thank you for listening and thank you for being with us. Inshallah, we meet again tomorrow, same time, same topics. We're going to discuss another interesting topics about the SPM leavers and how they're going to choose their program, how they're going to overcome their studies during the pandemic COVID-19. InsyaAllah. So, wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all the listeners. Bye.
Saya Cik Am, Senior Counselor, Inovatif di Hatiku.
Hai, saya Aiza, Inovatif di Hatiku.
Saya Yahurin Muhammad Yasin, Inovatif di Hatiku.
Hai, nama saya Kana, Inovatif di Hatiku. Saya Aini, Inovatif di Hatiku.
Saya Arisha, Inovatif di Hatiku.
Hai, saya Ain, Inovatif di Hatiku.
Saya Wanu Fazira, Inovatif di Hatiku.
Saya Nurfahana binti Zul, Inovatif di Hatiku. Saya Asma Amanina, Inovatif di Hatiku.
Hai, saya Hamka, Inovatif di Hatiku. Saya Muhammad Helmi bin Abdul Rahman, Inovatif di Hatiku.
Nama saya Nurul Al-Akila, penolong pendaftar Kolej Inovatif Antarabangsa, Inovatif di Hatiku.
Hai, nama saya Ahmad Faiz bin Abdul Razak, Inovatif di Hatiku.
Saya Abdul Rahman bin Kasbi, pendaftar Kolej Antarabangsa Inovatif. Inovatif di Hatiku.
Inovatif di Hatiku.